Hey, just a reminder, I'm streaming on Twitch on Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday at 8 PM Central European Time, link in the description below. That's it, enjoy the video. Forge Splattershot Pro and Foil Squeezer are similar in both stats, uses and even gear sets. But which weapon is better than the other? Hello and welcome to Splat Talk, and today we're gonna compare the Forge Splattershot Pro with the Foil Squeezer and see which weapon stands on top in Splatoon 2. First, let's talk about the Splattershot Pro. If you already use Vanilla or Kensa, then you know what to expect with the main weapon, as it is the standard mid-long range weapon to which every other weapon with a similar range is being compared to, both in terms of range and fire rate. It can deal 42 of base damage, and with enough main power-up equipped, it can go up to 49.9 of damage, closing in that 2-shot potential without never really reaching it. Like, you need your enemy to step into your ink before to get that 2-shot kill. The Forge variant comes equipped with a suction bomb and a bubble blower. As with all mid-long range weapon, the Forge Pro has a decent range to take most enemies down from a rather safe distance, and even if you never really get to exactly 2-shot kills, that still makes it a pretty threatening weapon nonetheless. Suction bomb sticks to any kind of surface, safe from out of bounds. It has a long activation time, but it has a very big explosion radius. You can throw it into walls to trap the enemy in, or you can just throw it on the ground to cover some turf. This subweapon is quite versatile in use. But the main weapon has actually two weaknesses: ink consumption and turf coverage. Yes, the main weapon is pretty ink consuming, and if you don't pay constantly attention to your ink tank, you might sadly find yourself in a difficult situation with no ink, especially if you're the kind of person to use regularly your suction bomb, let alone your sub-weapon in general. And if you're under attack or trying to escape, if you don't manage to recover some ink to fight back or to escape safely, you're pretty much a dead man. The other big weakness of the Splattershot Pro is that it does not cover turf as good as other weapons like Splattershot, R3 Nozzle Nose, and even Gal 96. This is kinda problematic because if you stepped in enemy ink and you need a quick getaway without taking too much damage from stepping into their ink, Splattershot Pro is definitely not your best bet, especially for painting on your feet, which is all the more crucial to escape enemy fire. Instead of going full main power up, you can equip yourself with some ink saver main, sub, or ink recovery to make things easier for your ink usage. You can even try using last ditch effort in ranked, as it can activate early in the game if your opponent progresses halfway through the objective or in the last 30 seconds of the game. What it does is that it massively decreases your ink consumption in general and boosts your ink recovery tremendously for the price of a single main slot. That being said, people would also use special power-up for the bubble blower, because this special is like firing huge ink bombs that float in the air that can be used as a shield or to zone the enemy out, or even for quick turf coverage for taking the splat zones back. And using special power-up increases the size of the bubbles. But you don't really need to use that much, as this ability has been buffed to get much bigger bubbles with even fewer quantity used. As such, you can get bubbles with a decent size by only using 2 subs, but it's up to you to see how big you want your bubbles to be. If you also have problem with stepping into the enemy ink, you can also use ink resistance to get you out of this mess. At last, main power-up is not to be neglected on Splattershot Pro, but with other crucial abilities that this variant can benefit from, unlike its peers, it's up to you to see how much main power-up and how much special power-up suits your playstyle with this weapon. Now, for the Foil Squeezer. The main weapon is particular to use because it has 2 modes of fire: long range, triggered by tap shots with perfect accuracy, a range between Splattershot Pro and Jet Squelcher and dealing 38 of base damage per shot, and short range, which is continuous fire, a range of Splattershot, an RNG and fire rate that are a bit worse than Splattershot and dealing 30 of base damage. The damage output of this weapon can be increased with main power-up, going all the way up to 49.4 for long range mode with maximum main power up, and 33.3 of damage for short range, which can be achieved without having maximum main power up. Besides that, this variant comes equipped with Splat Bomb and Bubble Blower. It's becoming evident that long range is designed for taking down most enemies from the distance, and short range designed for actual painting, which gives us its first strong point over the Splattershot Pro. However, for the long range mode to work, you have to mash the ZDAR button in order to only use the first shot of the weapon repeatedly, which might mess up the weapon, not because of anything that has to do within the game, but because of, well, your own finger, because your aim might be messed up simply by mashing the ZDAR button. That means that in theory, the Squeezer is potentially more powerful overall than Splattershot Pro, with longer range, more aggro sub-weapon, perfect accuracy, it paints well. But in practice, the only downside of this weapon, the human weakness, practically trumps all of its strengths, downside that can only be overcome by practice and experimentation of the weapon. The foil squeezer is the variant that's probably the most used because of the splat bomb. Because if you ever want to learn how to play this weapon, at least if you fail using it, you'll have something easy to use to defend yourself against the enemy and get them away, just like any splat charger or splatoscope user. There are many ways to orient your playstyle with the gear you will equip for this weapon. And again, they're pretty much the same as the Forge Pro, except it's no use to go overboard with the main power-up. You'll never get to 49.9 per shot anyway. What you can do with this weapon is helping yourself with some ink saver main, sub, or ink recovery. Maybe I'm being redundant with the usage of ink, but I insist to say that if you have trouble managing your ink tank, you'll be needing that anyway. And if you fail progressing in the objective in ranked and are probably letting your team down, which might be easier if you're a squeezer novice, I suggest going for last ditch effort as well. As already said, this will boost your ink efficiency overall for dirty situations, especially if the enemy progresses a little too far. Again, you can use some special power-up to get bigger bubbles and object trader to help yourself pop those bubbles faster. In my own playstyle, I also like using a bit of main power-up to help myself with the damage output. I'll tell you why in another video if you want. Regardless of the weapon you're choosing between those two, there's a strategy that you can use with Bubble Blower that involves, quote-unquote, to throw 2 bombs by yourself at the bubble to make it blow instantly without even needing too much ink saver sub, let alone any at all. What you need to do is throw a first bomb beforehand. Regardless of your special, activating your special refills instantly your ink tank, and as such you can immediately throw another bomb afterwards. In doing so, you'll need to fire your first bubble immediately after the first bomb so that it takes damage from it, and then fire a second bomb that will allow you to blow the first bubble a little faster. That trick needs a bit of training, but it's possible with both weapons. It might be a little easier however with a suction bomb since, well, it sticks to a surface and stays in place a bit longer than splat bomb before it blows up. But in any case, you need the bomb to be thrown close to you anyway. It's a trick I learned after watching a player do this trick with the Kansas Splatshot Jr., as they seemed to do this trick with a torpedo that locked onto nearby enemies and thus stood still in midair. The bubble hit this bomb before this player threw another torpedo onto the bubble, blowing it instantly and taking 3 nearby enemies down by surprise. This gave me the idea to replicate this strategy with the Forge Pro and the Foil Squeezer, since the configuration is, in the end, pretty similar. Overall, your choice of weapon depends on personal preference. In my opinion, and I'm pretty sure I stated this multiple times on Twitch, I think that the Squeezer has a lot of untapped potential that's only waiting to be unraveled to the world. The Foil Squeezer is no exception. I believe that this weapon is potentially more powerful than the Forge Pro, especially in having the same role and a similar kit. It is possible to grasp the full potential of the Squeezer with practice. But if you're feeling more comfortable with the Splattershot Pro or want to be more consistent more easily, then you can go ahead with the Forge Splattershot Pro. Well, this is funny because I feel that I am more consistent more easily with Squeezer than Splattershot Pro. But to do so, I had to study the behavior of the Squeezer and adapt myself to this unorthodox weapon. There's that, and then there are the flaws that I noticed with both the Splattershot Pro, the main weapon, and the Forge variant. For one, the weapon paints like an empty spray can. It's trash for painting the map. And for 2, when it comes to gear setup, it's like the Forge variant is torn between 2 worlds, doing more damage with main power-up, or getting bigger bubbles and being able to blow them up fast with special power-up and object shredder, which by the way increases damage to every object on the map for both the main and the sub-weapon. This includes the bubbles from the bubble blower, but sadly it excludes the players, as they get the same base damage with the main and sub-weapon. This means that the Forge Splattershot Pro will probably never reach its full potential, as the player needs to concede between the main and the special weapon to adapt to its playstyle. The Squeezer doesn't really mind because it will quite never reach the same level of damage as Splattershot Pro, even with max damage on this weapon. It can settle for a few main power-up, and in my opinion even Splattershot Pro can settle for the same amount, and as such it can focus on its main strengths. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any preference between these 2 weapons, want to share any tips from those, or have any suggestion for a topic I can splat talk about, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications, and follow me on Twitter and Twitch, links in the description below. This was Stardust, and I shall see you next time. Peace!